Hey guys, welcome back to another Division 2 video. So with the patch a few days ago, the Catalyst mask is no longer bugged and actually works now. So in this video I wanted to test it out a bit and see how it stacks up with some other top tier exotics, and see if it holds its own or if it's just going straight into the stash. So let's take a look. Alright, so for testing the Catalyst I was using the ongoing Directive gearset, because I felt like if the Catalyst was going to shine, this would give it the best chance, because ongoing Directive, you're basically just shooting status effects straight out of your gun. So I tried a few different things with this, and I'll show you in a second, but let's look at the Catalyst and see how it works first. So with Catalyst, it has weapon damage, hazard protection, and status effect, and the talent is Chemical Agent. So basically, dealing or receiving a status effect builds stacks up to 12, giving you plus 2% weapon damage, plus 2% status effect per stack, and then all the enemies have to be within 25 meters of you. And then for each enemy affected, you get 1 stack per second, and then being affected yourself gets you 2 stacks per second, which I think is kind of weird. So for this to work, you would have to use like the BACKFIRE and intentionally apply bleed to yourself, or just run through fire on purpose. But I don't know. I think it's kind of weird that the fastest way to build stacks is to basically intentionally hurt yourself. And then stacks decay at 1 stack per second after 5 seconds. And then when you're at max stacks, you get 25% bonus armor and 20% reload speed. And then this also lets you ADS while you're burning. So if I shoot one enemy with bleed, I start building catalyst stacks, and then if I kill him, it stops building stacks. Then after 5 seconds it starts depleting, and then in this case the more enemies that are bleeding, the faster you build stacks. So first let's talk about what I feel like is the biggest limitation to this mask, which is the 25 meter range. So right here, that's 25 meters. That's not very far. So with that range, this mask is already leaning into more of a run and gun style. And 25 meters is the limit. So here's 20 meters. And now here's 15 meters. And now we're kind of just getting into the memento territory. So if enemies are any closer than this, I feel like you might as well just run around and pick up memento trophies and get all the benefits from that. Then if enemies are beyond 25 meters, then the catalyst doesn't even work. So in that case, you might as well just take the coyotes mask. So basically the idea behind this build was to try and make it so you wouldn't just take memento, because memento giving you 3 core attributes, 30% weapon damage, 30% skill efficiency, 3% armor regen as long-term buffs, and then giving you even more short-term buffs. I just don't see why you'd ever use this over memento. So I tried to make this build so that it would work best in that 15 to 25 meter range. So for the backpack, I was using 1 piece of Petrov. This has crit chance, crit damage everywhere, except for this headshot damage, that's just an unfortunate roll. And then I'm using Unstoppable Force. And then the ongoing directive is weapon damage, crit damage everywhere. Then for the specialization, I was using Gunner for the armor on kill and the large LMG pouch. For the weapon, I was using the Carnage, Perfect Sadist, and then the skills, I was using the Banshee Pulse. This was to disorient enemies so you can get the bleed ammo. And then I tried using the Shock Trap, but it didn't really work out that well. You just can't throw it very far, so I didn't really use that much. For the modifiers, I had Security Link, the best kind of defense, extra padding, and loaded up. So here's the catalyst in the firing range. So with max stacks, I'm hitting to the head about 1.477 million. And this guy is at 15 meters, so I'm able to maintain the catalyst buff while I kill him. But you can see this guy back here is at 50 meters, and I'm already losing stacks, and it doesn't take that long for it to just completely be gone. So now if we swap out for the coyotes mask, so right here, just swapped out the catalyst for coyotes, 1.547. And then I can still shoot this target back here without having to worry about losing stacks. Then move back into close range, and it's just always on. So now let's do a quick comparison to memento at full stacks. So memento, and then I put on the contractor's gloves. And it looks like 1.285, which is about 190,000 less than the catalyst. But this is without the short-term buff of kill confirmed, which you still have the option to pick up, and you're not limited by the 25 meter range, and you're also not fighting against depleting stacks. So now let's take this build out into the open world and see how it works. And right here I actually did try and use the shock trap. And even with the shock trap, you can see my catalyst stacks aren't building up very fast. Then the enemies happen to spawn out of a manhole pretty close to me. And this is like best case scenario. They spawned right within range. They all kind of got lit on fire and bumped my catalyst stacks all the way up. But because I'm so close, I might as well just run up like this. And if you were using memento, you'd be picking up kill confirmed trophies, which would just be stronger. And again, this is like best case scenario for the catalyst, and memento would still be better. So now let's take it into a slightly different situation. So here's a public execution. They're all pretty much within range, and I just have to spray them with my gun because I can't throw my shock trap that far, and the Banshee Pulse might only hit 2 people at that range. So we've gotten a few kills, and we built the catalyst stacks all the way up. Now the second wave spawns, and if I go over to this truck and take the high ground, even with an LMG I can hit them from this far away. And this is probably triple or even quadruple the 25 meters. And you can see under my ammo bar I've already completely lost all my catalyst stacks. So my options were to basically run towards them and let them scatter, put myself in a more vulnerable position, all while taking longer to clear, or I could have just stood up on the truck and had the 25% crit chance from the coyotes mask, which would have just been better. So here's one last scenario really quick where I had rogue agents spawn at the end of a control point while I was testing the memento. And you can see here there's lots of trophies for me to pick up if needed. And with the memento, I didn't have to worry about the range to stack catalyst, and I didn't have to worry about depleting stacks. And I see some 1.239 million hits in there, so it's still hitting almost as hard as catalyst, assuming you were even at full stacks of catalyst. So to sum up, basically I think it's okay at best. I think with the way it currently is, it's better to just run either the memento or the coyotes mask. I think its biggest limitation is the 25 meter range it forces you into, because it makes it harder to gain stacks and easier to lose them. I think it should be the other way around when you have things like Coyote Mask and Memento where the buffs are basically always on. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the Catalyst Mask. Do you like it, or do you think it needs some work? Leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.